This is Taya reporting for the Real News Network in Baltimore City, Maryland. I'm standing outside a federal courthouse where a judge has just allowed a major civil rights lawsuit against Pocomoke City in the state of Maryland to move forward. The suit alleges the city and state discriminated against Kelvin Sewell and two other black officers who filed EEOC complaints alleging discrimination. The suit was joined by the Department of Justice, who agreed with the officers' charges. But Pocomoke and the state of Maryland fought back, and now a federal court judge, Frederick Motz, has ruled in Sewell's favor. To discuss the implications of this is Janis, our investigative reporter. So, Stephen, can you give us an update on the lawsuit and a little bit of background?
Well, of course, the lawsuit was filed by Sewell and two other officers who work for him shortly after he was fired in summer of 2015 by the Pocomoke City Council. The lawsuit alleges that he suffered a pattern of discrimination while he was working in Pocomoke during his 4.5-year tenure. Most of the lawsuit focused, or some of it focused, on a Worcester County Drug Task Force, which one of his officers, Frank Savage, was detailed to. During his time in that unit, he experienced discrimination, use of the N-word, driven to something called KKK Lane, a variety of things, which culminated in Savage being forced out of the unit, basically because of discrimination, and prompting to file the EEOC complaints. Shortly after Savage left, and Savage filed an EEOC complaint which sustained his allegations, Sewell was subsequently fired by the council because Sewell said he refused to fire Savage and another black officer who had been part of that discrimination complaint. And so this is a very crucial point, because the state of Maryland, our own state, has been fighting this lawsuit even after the Department of Justice saying these allegations weren't true. Well, now we're going to get to the meat of the trial, because the judge saying allowing the trial to go forward is going to allow depositions, discovery, just a further investigation of evidence. It means the case is going to now probably head its way into court, which is, of course, what the defendants in the case, being the state of Maryland and the city of Pocomoke, have been fighting against now for several months.
Are there any other implications to this ruling?
Well, I mean, I think the biggest implication is that, all the arguments made by the state of Maryland saying that the suit wasn't filed in a timely fashion, that the state was not an employer of Frank Savage when he was tasked here, that the allegations were just completely baseless because some people in the sheriff's office and some people in the task force said it wasn't true, that this case has no merit, the judges rejected those arguments, that several city officials in Pocomoke who said they had nothing to do with it also has been brushed aside. So the main thing is that at this point, both sides will have discovery. I mean, the defendants will have it too. But the main thing is that many of the things that went on behind the scenes, that we've been able to uncover some of it, now we might know more about the story. For example, the city of Pocomoke, even in their filings against this, still haven't revealed a concrete reason why Kelvin Sewell was fired. And the other implication, of course, is for the criminal prosecution of Kelvin Sewell. Just so people know, back in the summer of 2016, Kelvin was indicted along with his Lieutenant Lionel Green, for misconduct, for allegedly interfering with an accident investigation involving two parked cars in the summer of 2014. That prosecution was called by Sewell's defense as retaliatory. After a one-day trial, he was convicted of one count. And I think that this lawsuit going forward is going to cast even more questions and doubt on the motivations behind this prosecution. Because if evidence comes forward, even more evidence that this was indeed retaliatory, that because these officers filed EEOC complaints, which is protected under the law, were fired, I think it's going to raise doubts about why Sewell was eventually prosecuted. Through our investigation, we revealed that one of the defendants in this lawsuit, which would be the Worcester County State's Attorney's Office, was actually working with state prosecutors to prosecute Sewell. They gave all the evidence, which ended up being part of the case at Emmett Davitt and the state prosecutor. So this has big implications in the state.
So, Stephen, what happens now?
Well, what happens now is the judge has scheduled a conference for all parties to schedule, among other things, discovery, which means that both sides will get access to emails and all sorts of other types of evidence. They'll be able to review correspondence between officials, city officials, and they'll be able to review Sewell's emails as well, and some of the more details that have been missing from this case. The other part of it is they will probably start scheduling at some point pretty soon depositions, which means that people like the city officials, like let's say Mayor Bruce Morrison or members of the council, will have to give sworn statements in front of lawyers talking about many of the issues in this case. So this case will really get to the point where the people who have been making allegations back and forth will really have to come and sit down and answer those. And obviously from there you would decide whether you go to a trial. So this is a really big step in the case. This means you can't just toss the case to the side. One way or another it's going to be resolved.
This is Taya and Stephen Janis reporting for the Real News Network in Baltimore City, Maryland.